Bill Cosby passed out shortly after the news was released. Insiders claim it was something more deeper than shock, which his team said it was. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing affected more than just his admirers. The man who had referred to him as a son was shaken. Why did Cosby's response send shockwaves through his inner circle, and what did he know? Stay put, because you won't believe what transpired behind those jail walls once Cosby received the news. Millions of people were shocked by the untimely death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the man we all knew and loved as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. However, no one anticipated the response when word got to Bill Cosby, the man who had coached him on and off screen. A close prison insider said that Cosby passed out when he heard the news, a physical and mental breakdown that left more questions than answers. The world is now wondering if it was simply grief or if he was suddenly taken up by something he had been denying for years. Guilt or memories. We're delving deeply into what actually transpired in the initial moments following Cosby's sad news announcement in this video. We'll share behind-the-scenes video from Cosby's legal team, unique responses from individuals closest to both men, and the little-known tale of their complicated relationship. From the heyday of comedy fame to the agonizing quiet that ensued after Cosby's demise. We'll also look at the strong emotional connection that existed between Bill and Malcolm-Jamal, but that most people were unaware of, as well as why this tragedy might have been the last straw for Cosby. Malcolm stated something you won't believe during his last podcast appearance. And listen to find out who attempted to prevent Cosby from going to the memorial. Yes, there was an attempt to keep him away. This is not merely a tale of sorrow. It's a tale of remorse, quiet, and the profound wounds caused by scandal, celebrity, and long-kept secrets. Hold on tight, for this is the genuine deal. The world was shocked to learn about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's untimely death. However, the response was apparently much more intense than anyone had anticipated behind the walls of SCI Phoenix, the prison where Bill Cosby is currently incarcerated. The 87-year-old former TV star was reading legal documents in his cell when a prison officer came up to him with an urgent message. According to several people close to Cosby's inner circle. According to reports, Cosby, who continues to receive a few headlines and newspaper clippings because of his fame, stared blankly for a few seconds while he took in the news that Malcolm-Jamal Warner found dead. According to the Daily Insider, one prisoner claimed that he simply froze as if he had seen a ghost. Then he gripped his chest and sat down firmly, whispering, "No, no, not Theo." The guards hurried in at that point. According to early reports, Cosby's fainting incident was attributed to stress, and he was sent to the jail infirmary under medical supervision shortly after. However, insiders claim that something far more sentimental took place behind those closed doors. Why was this reaction so instinctive? In spite of Cosby's numerous legal issues, Malcolm-Jamal never disparaged him in public for years. Indeed, he was abnormally quiet, because silence from someone you love may frequently scream the loudest. Insiders claim that Cosby was more troubled by that silence than by any celebrity backlash. According to several jail workers, Cosby was clearly frightened and kept repeating the same few words. "He was my son. He was my son." Even more tragic is the fact that Cosby had allegedly mentioned to another prisoner that he missed his time with Malcolm only a few weeks earlier. Rumor had it that Cosby had even written Warner a private letter, but it was never delivered. It's too late now. Although Cosby may have seemed calm or unflappable behind bars, Some who witnessed him that day said it devastated him in a manner that no court case or public controversy ever could. The chemistry between Malcolm-Jamal Warner and Bill Cosby was evident from the start of The Cosby Show in 1984. They portrayed Dr. Cliff Huxtable and Theo, father and son, on screen. Fans were unaware of the deeper, more complex, and sometimes more tragic nature of their relationship behind the scenes. Over the years, insiders from the set of the film have disclosed that Cosby took Malcolm under his wing almost immediately. Malcolm-Jamal was eager to learn, wide-eyed and inquisitive at the age of 14. Already a titan of the entertainment business, Cosby become more than just a mentor. He turned into a guardian, gatekeeper, and father figure. Cosby was described by seasoned show crew members as strangely fixated on Malcolm. He would coach Theo in between takes, alter scenes to give him more screen time, and warn him repeatedly to avoid the Hollywood trap. Keep clean and stay sharp. Here's where things get even more intense, many claimed. Malcolm-Jamal gradually started to distance himself from Cosby as he grew older, began to forge his own voice, produced music, directed television, and even dated A-list celebrities like Regina King. According to certain cast members, a subtle tension was building. It was not open to the public. It was genuine, but not loud. Malcolm's silence also spoke a lot when the accusations against Cosby erupted in the press. Malcolm was eerily silent in contrast to other cast members, such as Felicia Rashad, who vehemently supported Cosby. He never openly endorsed Cosby, but he also never condemned him. He avoided inquiries during interviews by saying things like, "It's complicated," or "I'll just leave it at that." Those close to Cosby said the silence hurt more than anything else. According to Blacker Report, one of Cosby's long-standing friends claimed, "Bill used to say, 'I taught him everything.'" Why is he not answering the phone? Once unbreakable, that link had broken under the pressure of controversy, embarrassment, and possibly disappointment. But even without reconciliation, there was love, which is why Cosby's response to Malcolm's passing wasn't just shock but heartbreak, because to Cosby, Theo wasn't just a fictional character, he was his son, a son he never really got to say goodbye to. Regina King was among the first names to trend alongside his when word of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's untimely death broke, and it wasn't a coincidence. For years, fans viewed these two as the quiet power couple of Black Hollywood, and they had a deep, intensely private relationship that had been the focus of rumors, speculation, and heartbreak. They began dating in the early 2000s, and many people characterized their relationship as soul level. Two talented, award-winning artists who had experienced the pressures, betrayals, and pitfalls of fame, finally finding peace in one another. They didn't date back then, but there was always a quiet respect, a magnetic pole that seemed to follow them through life. However, the public was unaware that their bond began much earlier. According to insiders close to both Regina and Malcolm, the two actually first met in the 1980s, when Regina was filming 227, and Malcolm was the teenage heartthrob on The Cosby Show. He loved her son. She supported his music. They kept it low, stayed out of the tabloids. And they genuinely thought this was forever. Years later, when they formally got together, Regina was recently divorced and a single mother, and Malcolm had just withdrawn from the public eye after years of being in the spotlight. Friends characterized their relationship as healing rather than romantic. However, it ended abruptly and unexpectedly in 2013. It was a quiet, but devastating breakup. There were no messy interviews or cheating scandals, just a subtle disappearance. They were inseparable on red carpets one minute and then gone the next. When Regina appeared on Super Soul Sunday, Oprah even tried to get answers, but Regina said, "You know, sometimes love isn't enough. Timing is everything." Although Malcolm never made a public statement, many close to him claimed that he never truly moved on. One acquaintance even disclosed that he had pictures of Regina and her baby on his phone after they parted up, and that he would constantly get excited when her name was said. It's the second tragedy to hit her heart, and Regina reportedly collapsed upon hearing the news. And those close to her say she's been in complete emotional turmoil ever since. Regina didn't just react like an ex when she received the call about Malcolm's passing. She reacted like someone who had lost a piece of herself. The first was the suicide death of her only son, Ian Alexander Jr., a few years prior. This time, the grief isn't merely personal. It's multi-layered, disorganized, and plagued by the thought, what if? What if they had gotten back in touch? What if he had made contact? What if it's too late and this was the second chance? I have lost many things in this life, but this one shattered me. Regina wrote in a heartfelt Instagram tribute that has now gone viral. Rest well, my light, my buddy, and my love. Fans are now urging Netflix to reveal the limited series, a dramatic biography about love, tragedy, and legacy that Malcolm and Regina were secretly working on together. It was intended to be their comeback project, a means of reconciliation and healing. Rather, it might now be a letter of love to what might have been. Hollywood halted when the news of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing came, particularly the Cosby Show cast, who were devastated and left in complete shock. Malcolm was more than simply a co-star to them. He was family. First up is Felicia Rashad, who portrayed Claire Huxtable, his on-screen mother. Their relationship was more profound than any TV show could ever depict. For many years, Malcolm would always refer to her as Mama Rashad on Mother's Day. Thus, it was more than just a loss when she received the news. It was the breakdown of an emotional bond that lasted a lifetime. "I've known Malcolm since he was a boy," Felicia wrote in an official statement that was made public. "I was fortunate to call him my son both on and off screen. He was a brilliant, kind, and passionately intelligent young man who developed into a profound, grounded, and creative force." But it didn't end there. Shortly after learning of the news, Raven Sim, who portrayed Olivia, Theo's younger cousin on the program, went live on Instagram. Tempest Bledsoe, who played Vanessa Huxtable, posted a very personal photo, an old behind-the-scenes shot from their final season, with the caption, "We laughed until we cried in this moment, and today I'm crying for real." She was clearly shaken and crying as she whispered, "He was one of the real ones. He looked out for me when I was just a kid. He told me not to let Hollywood change me. I didn't listen to a lot of people, but I listened to him. I'm broken. Malcolm was my son. I raised him on screen and watched him become a man. This is a loss beyond words. You were always the heart of the set." Kevin Knight Pulliam, who played Rudy, shared a heartbreaking memory on her podcast just hours after the news went public. Even Bill Cosby, who has been largely silent in the media following his legal controversies, issued a brief but heartfelt tribute through his legal team. Keisha sobbed as she told fans, "He lived by those words." She recounted the time during the filming of the last episode when Malcolm grabbed her aside and said, "Promise me, Whatever happens in life, don't let the world harden your heart. He served as our glue. Without him, I'm not sure what we'll do. Even younger stars like Zendaya and John Boyega tweeted about how the Cosby Show and Malcolm's performance had influenced their childhoods and inspired their careers. Beyond the cast, other prominent black Hollywood voices, from Debbie Allen to Denzel Washington, also shared tributes that echoed the same sentiment. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was more than Theo. He was a mentor, a quiet giant, and a protector. It's painfully obvious now that Malcolm wasn't just acting. He was providing a version of black boyhood, brotherhood, and brilliance that hadn't existed on TV before. Fans flooded the internet with hashtag Thank You Theo, sharing memes, videos, and personal accounts of how Malcolm's presence on screen had helped them grow up with pride, laughter, and identity. And now, as the tributes poured in and social media was overwhelmed with grief, that light has been extinguished, leaving fans with one heartbreaking question. How did Malcolm-Jamal Warner die? What truly happened to this vibrant, seemingly healthy man, only 54 years old? The first report claimed it was a drowning accident, but now those close to Malcolm are speaking up, and the truth is far more complicated, painful, and enigmatic than anyone could have imagined. This is where things take a darker turn. Malcolm was discovered face down in shallow water close to a private shoreline estate in Southern California, where authorities say he had been staying at a remote retreat that he frequently visited for peace and introspection, particularly during periods of emotional or creative block. According to a number of close friends and industry insiders, Malcolm had been notably withdrawn in recent months. One source, who wished to remain anonymous, revealed that he was not returning calls, and when he did, it was brief, distracted, and uncharacteristic. He kept claiming that he needed time to collect himself. In fact, weeks before his death, Malcolm had discreetly withdrawn from a significant television project that was supposed to signal his return to prime time. Although police initially ruled the death as accidental drowning, the medical examiner's office has confirmed that toxicology tests are still pending and no official cause of death has been released. What's even more shocking is that reports have surfaced that Malcolm left behind a personal journal found at the scene of his death, which contains raw reflections, emotional entries, and what some are calling a clear cry for help. His family has been silent, particularly his mother, Pamela Warner, who raised him in Montclair, New Jersey, and was known to be one of the biggest anchors in his life. Her heartbreaking statement simply read, "I have lost my son, my light, and my soul's deepest joy." While some tabloids speculate that substance use may have been a factor, others suggest that a mental health crisis may have played a role. In addition, one of Malcolm's longtime best friends, a former college roommate from Morehouse, told Variety in an exclusive, "Malcolm battled the weight of expectations for years." What's especially heartbreaking is that, just days before he passed away, Malcolm posted a mysterious quote to his private Instagram story. Fans now look back on that post with a sinking feeling. Was it a final message, a warning no one saw coming? This remark has triggered a huge online conversation about the psychological effects of childhood stardom and how many former child actors, especially black actors, suffer in silence under the spotlight. Being Theo meant being perfect, being the example, being lovable, but not flawed. That kind of pressure can eat you alive. Fans were quick to compare Malcolm to Jesse Smollett, Orlando Brown, and even Gary Coleman. all of whom experienced tragic turns in their post-fame lives. Yet, there's more. A former assistant has reportedly come forward to say Malcolm had been secretly battling chronic depression and may have had long-standing heart issues that were never disclosed to the public. Fans, family, and friends are left searching for answers as the world mourns a man who brought us so much light, but may have been trapped in darkness all along. This begs even more questions. Was this really an accident? Was it neglect? Or was it the tragic culmination of years of silent suffering? In the wake of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's tragic death, Regina King's silence was more powerful than all the headlines, memorials, and public sorrow put together. The world watched as this elegant, celebrated actress stayed incredibly silent. No interviews, no press releases, just one heartbreaking post on her Instagram story that featured a black and white picture of Malcolm and the words, "I'm shattered forever." The relationship between Regina King and Malcolm-Jamal Warner, which started in the early 2000s and was once one of the most admired in Black Hollywood, was more than just tabloid fodder from the past. It was a deep, complicated love story that many people thought never really ended. That post alone sent social media into a tailspin. Their love ended abruptly and painfully in 2013, according to close sources at the time. They had been quiet, private, and fiercely protected for years, supporting each other behind the scenes at awards shows, on red carpets, and even while raising their respective children. Malcolm ended things abruptly and even moved out without giving a full explanation. In the wake of his passing, Regina's circle is revealing just how profoundly this tragedy has reopened emotional wounds. One friend reportedly told Essence, Regina never stopped caring about him. Regina never publicly discussed the breakup in detail, but she did allude to the pain in a 2017 interview. Sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the most. They had a genuine item, and this is where the story gets deeper. Regina has been quiet about her love life in recent years, and Malcolm never married. But there were rumors in the industry, at award shows and quiet gatherings, that they had reconnected in 2021 through mutual friends. She always thought they would reconnect, perhaps not romantically, but as friends, as soul ties. If it's true, his loss is even more devastating. Regina, who is already dealing with the heartbreaking grief of losing her son, Ian Alexander Jr., to suicide in 2022, is now dealing with yet another blow, one that she's keeping heartbreakingly private. Some people even claim they were texting again in the months leading up to his death. She's broken, a person close to her stated. It seems like there have been a lot of losses during the last 2 years. She is not quite ready to speak, but she is writing and praying. Not quite yet, and that hurt is felt by supporters. She has been inundated with love and strength comments from people on Instagram and Twitter. Grieving for your son and now your soulmate. May God grant Regina King peace, some others commented. Fans are now urging the Cosby Show ensemble to publicly support Regina, saying, "This one hits different. She's already gone through too much. Please protect her." Regina and Malcolm were real. She was, after all, a member of Malcolm's larger family in the business. Furthermore, despite remarks from Bill Cosby's estate, Keishia Knight Pulliam, and Felicia Rashad expressing their condolences for Malcolm, none of them have publicly contacted Regina, an omission that many find concerning. A handwritten note that Malcolm allegedly left behind, and that was found among his personal belongings, however, is arguably the most poignant item. The note said, "If I leave this world tomorrow, know that I loved hard, maybe, too hard. Tell Regina, I'm sorry for all the silence, according to early, unverified reports from a TMZ insider. Fans have accepted it as the time, celebrity, pride, and now death, regardless of whether this is true or not. She always deserved better. Despite his bodily passing, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's influence, brilliance, and brightness endure for generations to come. From the profound emotional wounds he left on those who loved him, like Regina King, to his role as Theo Huxtable, which changed the definition of black childhood for millions, to his voice as an activist, author, and mentor behind the scenes. This was more than just a TV personality passing away. It was the passing of a cultural pillar, a man whom many people silently relied upon, even when no one else was doing so. Let's honor Malcolm for the silent struggles he waged by himself, as well as the love and happiness he gave to screens. By keeping an eye on our strong friends, paying attention to what they have to say, and never presuming that someone's light means they aren't fighting the dark, we can commemorate him. Malcolm, may you rest in peace. We shall always remember you.